Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. Today we have with us a special guest, Virginia Parsons. Virginia is a visibility and marketing coach, and she's also the host of the Inspirational Business Women's Show. She is all about empowering us to increase our visibility and reputation so that we can multiply streams of income and profits without working 15-hour days. I gotta love that. So welcome to the show, Virginia. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you, Jill. It's great to be here with you. And I love talking about this because it really is my passion. And it's the way my whole business has evolved, which I never would have dreamt it evolved this way 20 years ago. But here we are today.
Yeah. And you do this on the road too, which is like just so phenomenal to me.
I do. In the last 2 years, yeah, we sold our townhome and I said, let's just do this. Let's go try it out. What do we have to lose? We can always go back to living, in an apartment or whatever. And my husband was game. And the biggest thing that held us back initially was, can we get good quality internet service? And once we resolved that problem, it was, let's do it. And we haven't looked back.
It's so amazing how much having solid internet connections. I remember back in the day when I first started truck driving with my husband, it was back in the days when they had the plug-in modems and you had to like plug it into the telephone to dial up internet. So anyway, we're walking into the truck stop with our laptop, the big bulky laptops, and looking at this telephone to see if we could unhook the receiver part of it, because you have to unhook the receiver in order to plug in your modem adapter thing. So there's this old trucker sitting in the corner watching us examine this telephone, and he leans in and he goes, "You just pick up the receiver and dial." So we're from a different planet or something.
Oh, I know. It is so evolved. I can't believe what's happened really in the last 10 years since I've been broadcasting the show. But even before that, I remember when cell phones were the size of a brick.
Yeah. I'm right in your age group. That was like 20 years ago. More than 20 years ago. It's like
Probably more like 30
almost 30
now.
years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I began my marketing career. And I was a sales manager at that time for a custom home community. And I remember it was right when faxes were coming out, and instead of having to have contracts, sent by courier, you could now put them in this little machine and it would come out the other side. And then the cell phones that were the size of a brick, things have evolved a whole lot in 30 years.
And those fax machines, you had to stick the receiver down into these little holder things, like the old style telephones. I mean, I'm dating myself, but
So
telephones used to have like two parts. There was the receiver and then there was the machine
That's
part.
right. That's right.
Now it's just all in one, and it's a computer too.
That's right. It is amazing, really, what's happened. It's been an exciting time, actually, because, when I was working in marketing years ago, online marketing didn't exist. Come on, the internet didn't exist, right? And
It
so
did.
everything was done through, magazine and newspaper articles and flyers and mailers. And oh, wow, have things changed. But
Door
what
to
an
door.
exciting time. Oh, yeah, door to door. Yeah.
Yeah, I sold real estate, and I remember knocking on people's doors and asking, are you ready to sell your house yet? And
Yeah.
if you are, come see me. And
Yeah.
no internet, so you had to go and see the house and take lots of notes to see what yours, when you had buyers come along, and no GPS, so
No,
you really had to use your
you used a
maps,
map, one that folded.
or the Thomas guides that you had to flip the pages, and
Oh, gosh.
you're like trying to get the page.
I'm sure there's some people in the audience that can identify with what we're talking about.
Yeah, I hope so.
Mm.
So now that we've moved into this new century that has offered us so much more opportunities, how are people getting visibility now instead of
What
door
a
to
great
door?
question. Yeah. And, part of the problem is that people who are what I call emerging entrepreneurs, and I love to focus on what I call heart-centered entrepreneurs, which means they're mostly women, although I do work with a few great men, I have to tell you. But that's all that they want to know about is, how do I get my message out there? I know that that's what I need to do. I know I have a passion. I know that I can make big difference in other people's lives. I can have a big impact, but I just don't know this one part because there was no training on it. There's no real education on this. This is an evolving path that people are learning. We're all learning it. I just have been maybe working at it longer than quite a few people have. But so how do people get the word out today? Well, the beautiful thing really, Jill, is that we do have the internet, number one, and we have something that has become more cost available for most people. When I started broadcasting years ago, or we're talking over 10 years now with my show, there were just a few new platforms out there. I was actually on Google Plus at that time, built over 10,000 followers there. And I was broadcasting on Hangouts on Air, which don't even exist anymore. And at the time, it was a fabulous, very powerful platform that was now available at no cost or very little cost, just to set up the tools you needed for the average person so that they could get visible like, the big companies were, spending all this money in advertising. So we have now so many different ways to, get out there, get known, get seen, share ourselves, from the heart. And that's what I always say. It's about coming with a sense of passion and inspiration to let people know what you truly are passionate about. So the ways have changed a lot. And I would say, obviously, top of mind, top tool to use is what we're doing right here, right now. Connecting with people using your camera that's hooked right into your computer or even on your cell phone, and just having a conversation, being genuine. One of the very best ways to get out there. I don't think that that's going to change anytime soon.
Really, Zoom has taken over where Google Hangouts left off. Google
Yeah.
Hangouts were not that dissimilar from this. You could have
No.
groups of people, and the pandemic really helped us, I think, in terms of everybody knows what Zoom is now because we had to use it for schools. And there are other platforms like StreamYard's really a powerful tool also. So I'm going to plug both of them to be fair here. But starting podcasts is another thing that, people can do. It's not,
Right.
it's, would you say it's about volume, or would you say it's about authenticity, or would you say it's a combination of both?
Oh, of course, it's both. Absolutely. Authenticity comes from getting comfortable being on camera. And I remember when I first started to broadcast, I had all the typical fears of public speaking that we're all known to have, the palpitations, the dry mouth, the things that, the sweating, all those things like, oh, I'm on camera. What's the world going to think? And of course, once you get comfortable with a camera, and I always say, make the camera your best friend, because it is your window to the world, and it is your way of connecting to the world in an authentic way. So authenticity is really important, but I know initially it's hard to feel authentic when you're trying to communicate through a camera rather than talking to people, across the table kind of thing, or even in a live speech or presentation to a room full of people. But once you get that part down and you really realize it's just a wonderful tool that you have access to at a really low cost these days, then it is about exposure. It's about distribution and learning all the different paths of distribution that are available to you. And of course, those two combined, I don't think you can beat, because authenticity, number one, but people still have to see you, right? You still have to get the message out there. So both are important.
So do you rely mainly on social media, or do you have other ways that you distribute your content?
Yeah.
You encourage people
Well, again, social media is here to stay. It's not my favorite place to hang out, in all honesty, but it is where people are hanging out. It continues to change, by the way, because, when I was on Google Plus, that's where I built, most of my following in the beginning, and now Google Plus is gone, right? It's disappeared. So, I went to Facebook. I'm not as big on Instagram personally. It's not my favorite platform, but for some people, it's like the only place to be. Depends on where you're wanting to brand your business, basically. I think YouTube continues to be very important. I certainly use it. A LinkedIn, if you're business to business, is excellent. And now you've got, lots of other platforms out there that are wanting to compete. Where do you go with this? I think you have to decide what feels the most authentic and resonates with you as an individual. And also, where are your peeps hanging out, right? If your particular ideal audience is not on LinkedIn, that's really not a place that you should probably put a lot of effort into. However, I do think the more you diversify, the better, because the big mistake I made back in, I don't know, it has to be 5-7 years ago now, was that I put all my emphasis onto Google Plus. Even though I was on Facebook, I wasn't doing it much. I put all my emphasis onto Hangouts on Air. Actually built my business originally around Hangouts on Air. It was called Hangout Marketing You, and I was teaching people how to market themselves online using Hangouts on Air. And it all went away. So this is a constantly changing, fleeting business to do with social. Now, given that, I'm going to say still the most important place you can be hanging out and adding new content is your own website, because it's the only thing you control. Your own website and your own email list are what you can control. You cannot control these social platforms and what they're going to do from today to tomorrow. We know that Facebook might be doing some changes next month, and you can't stream from something like StreamYard or Restream directly into Facebook. They're going to make that very difficult as far as doing it into your groups. Shouldn't say into everything, but into your groups. Right now, we can stream from these platforms directly into our groups. Well, they're going to make it difficult to do that. So you don't have control there. So you want to think about, yes, be on social, but where else do you have full control of getting the message out and becoming more visible? So do not neglect your own website, and don't neglect your own email list.
Yeah. And your point about depending on platforms, I've seen this happen a lot of times over the years. You develop your following in just one area, and then that goes away. Google Plus was one of the big ones, but there was a platform called Squidoo for a while, and Squidoo made some people very wealthy and really helped them get the hang. They helped Amazon, honestly, really get going. And some of these places, they make connections, and then the connections break. Like Pinterest and Google. Pinterest depended on Google a lot to get their start. But then Google said, no, I'm sorry, we're not going to allow you to do that. And it really impacted Pinterest for several years. They're just now really kind of coming back. from their heyday when Google was recommending them everywhere. And that's what happened to Squidoo also. They just, Google said, no, we're not going to prioritize your listings anymore. And so all these people that were getting all of this traffic from Google with Squidoo to they call them lenses, it went away almost overnight. And it's kind of when Google started doing their updates, their animal updates, that it's like terrorized everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I really grew a very loyal following on Google Plus. And, the way we use Facebook today to have private groups for, for instance, if you've sold a program or a package, you have a private group that people go into. We were doing that on Google Plus. I had a big group on there as well. And so it was a great lesson for me. Probably one of the biggest lessons I learned is that you do not put your business cannot be dependent on any one platform, or should not be dependent on anything you don't control, period. And so that was a very hard lesson for me, and one that I thought, what am I going to do now? Because I really had to change the whole direction of my business. So I moved it from the Hangout Marketing U domain into mediaspotlightmarketing.com, because I moved it into the idea that I want to help spotlight people in all forms of media. I want them to help get the word out so they shine online using all the different media possibilities that are available out there. So that's how I transformed my business. It was a very hard lesson. It took me a good 1.5 to 2 years to make that transition. But when I did, I realized that the lesson was one worth teaching other people, that you must control what it is that you're doing and what you're distributing, and how you get the word out about it. Hard lesson.
For sure, for sure. And knowing that these platforms are tools, and technology changes and the tools will continue to be upgraded and updated and sometimes just done away with altogether.
Right.
And you have to be nimble.
You really do.
So that you can change with the platforms. And it's not to say that you shouldn't have like maybe 1 or 2 main platforms that you know really well, so that you have a fallback position. But it's difficult to get really big on all of the platforms. Not impossible, but if you're just starting out, pick 2. Your main one and your backup one.
Pick more than one.
Yeah. Pick 2.
Pick 2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah. And get proficient at the other 2, but really know the one.
Yeah.
So that if you have to fall back, you're not falling all the way back to the beginning. You're falling back to the next best thing. And then get really good at that one and find a third one again.
Yeah.
That's kind of the best way to protect yourself, I think. So
yeah, and how do we know? Who knows when something's going to go down? You just don't. We really didn't have any warning at all on Google.
No, I think there was like maybe a month, if that.
Yeah, if that. Yeah.
It happened really fast. And what do you feel about offline marketing? Is there still a place for that?
By offline, I think you mean in-person marketing?
Yeah.
You mean the old-fashioned way, like when we get together and have a cup of coffee or a drink, or we get together in a group and do a real networking event where we shake hands and give real hugs, and the things that we lost access to when the pandemic came down? Oh, yes, I think they're so valuable. I've always been one that has emphasized online and doing these kind of connections such as we're having right now. But I remember I was a part of a mastermind, and the reason I joined that mastermind was for the personal connections. Because when you're meeting in person, even if you're going to like a mastermind training or event and you're in the same hotel, for instance, one of the best things that happens at those events are what happens outside of the event. as you're maybe sitting down for lunch together, having a conversation. The best relationships develop at that time. And so I'm glad we're moving back to having more of those, because I have connections from those that have lasted me, over a decade. Relationships that have grown into, client relationships have grown into incredible, what we would call JV partners, affiliates, that came from that one-to-one contact, where you can go so much deeper in your conversations. It can feel that much more genuine. So, boy, I'm so glad to see that those are back as well. I think they're just really imperative.
I think so too. And you're right. You make connections with people and they stay with you forever.
Yeah.
It's just like so magical. Um, and you're trying to kind of capture that with your virtual dinners. I think they were probably born out of the pandemic and the need for us to not network in person. Is that how they were born? Or maybe you should just tell us, how were they born?
Well, I can't say that I was the inventor of this term, virtual dinner party, but I learned about it and said, I love this concept because it is a way for people to come together in a non-salesy environment where we just exchange ideas, where we support each other, where we uplift each other. And I thought, we need more of this. Women are so great, first of all, in collaborating. I feel it's just they're natural at it because we're natural nurturers, right? So the virtual dinner party was that I'm aware of was sort of born by Greg Wells, and he's been training on it now for a few years. But when I saw the concept, I said, yes, we need more of this. Opportunities for people to come together virtually, because it is so difficult to travel and it's expensive to travel. But if you come together virtually and you come together with an idea that you are here to network, but not sell, all the barriers go down. Everyone's there saying, here's what I'm struggling with in my business. What are some of your challenges? Here's what I'm thinking about doing. I'd love your feedback on it. And it's just a great exchange of ideas, collaboration, and a lot of partnerships end up being born out of that. Not to mention new clients coming just because you're there being authentic and giving of your own knowledge and support. So I love the concept, and I thank Greg for really coming up with it. I've been running with it now for about a year and a half, and offer them in my group, my Facebook group, once a month.
Awesome. And so how do people get in touch with you, and as far as your Facebook group goes? What's that called?
Yeah, well, my Facebook group is Inspirational Entrepreneurs Who Shine Online. That's the name of the Facebook group. And if they're interested, I can also give you a link if they'd like to find out about the virtual dinner parties.
That would be awesome.
Okay, so let me go grab that. I've got it here for you. If you go to, this is my link shortener, it's called shinetips.com/VDP RSVP. VDP RSVP is for RSVPing to get notified for future virtual dinner parties.
Awesome. And does the VDP have to be capitalized?
No, it
Okay.
doesn't.
It doesn't matter if it's capitalized?
It doesn't. It'll go either way. Yeah.
Awesome. Because sometimes those links, they are dependent on upper and lower.
This is fine.
Just wanted to make sure. So that's pretty cool. And what kind of people would you say would be interested in what you're doing? Who are you calling out to? Let me put it that way.
Well, this has evolved. And I think it's because I've come from a spirit of wanting to serve and inspire. I wanted to share with you that my verb is inspire. And I talk to people about this in the virtual dinner party. We all come up with our verbs. It's what you stand for. And that's really what I've been standing for a number of years is I inspire. That's where Inspirational Businesswoman show was born. That's where the Inspirational Entrepreneurs Who Shine Online Facebook group came from. I want to inspire and uplift people. That is what I stand for. So who do I reach out to? Anyone who needs some inspiration, who needs support, who needs help using technology. Obviously, I've been doing broadcasting for years. Anyone who needs help around speaking and getting more exposure or visibility online, those are all the areas that I specialize in. And one of my favorite things to do is to take an interview, such as what we're doing here, and leverage it for my clients. And so one of my favorite programs is Interview Leverage. So I take that interview and create 30 pieces of compelling content for them, and then distribute it out over 6 different platforms. They love it because all they have to do is show up in their bright, shiny blouse and give me great information, and I take it from there so they can go back and do what they do best, which is to inspire people in their work.
That is
win-win.
amazing. And people don't realize how much content they're creating when they go and do podcast interviews.
Right.
And then to go back through it and to cull out choice pieces. You do 1 or 2 a week, and you've got content forever.
You do. You do. And when I see people going online and they're putting other people's quotes online, like as a post, I think that's fine, but why not put your own quotes on there instead?
Yeah.
Because they're all about who you are, what you do, who you help, what you stand for. Those are the quotes I think people should be using. And that's what I do. I pull them all out and put them into what I call animated posts so that they capture people's attention. And then all the videos I create, it's just, for me, it's inspiring. And for them, they're so excited to see, oh, I created all that with an interview. And I say, yes, you did.
You don't realize how quotable you are until
Right.
somebody else comes along and says, oh, that was great. We'll capture that nugget.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And you also do television, which is something that just recently came into my periphery. TV is also evolved over our lifetimes. But you work with just tell me about it. Be easier than me trying to ask.
It's another thing that's evolved. Once you start working in this field, you start to see what are all the tools that are available out there for me. And you have to realize that a lot of the TV tools have evolved in the last 10 to 12 years as well. So, thinking of Roku TV, it's something that they now, it's been out there for people to use to receive traditional TV programming, but now there's a developer mode for Roku TV, for Amazon Fire TV, for Apple TV, that as a developer, you can then have your own channel, your own station, so to speak, and people can see you that way as well. So yeah, I started exploring that, I think about 5 years or so ago. And the Inspirational Businesswoman show is now on, Roku and Amazon, etc. And of course, then we also send it out on iTunes. You can't neglect probably the most powerful platform at all for podcasting and broadcasting, which I still think is iTunes. It just, for my people on the shows that I do, they just get wonderful viewership there. I think you do too, don't you use that one?
Yeah. I use them all, but Apple is definitely still the king.
Yeah.
Spotify is trying to be a close second, but when we're talking about, pick 2 platforms or 3, that's where you got to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Start there.
Yeah. Start with the big one, and then the next one, that should be your backup.
Yes.
The one that's trying to get there. So we talked about television and getting on television and Roku, and I was going to go someplace else with that, but I just forgot.
Well, I think we've hit on the main points as far as those are concerned, because anyone can get on these shows. Now you have to jump through a few hoops to do it. I don't think that being a developer is all that easy. I did it for a while and then had the ability to also offer other people's shows on there. It's sort of like, your own programming. You've got a network, you develop your own channel, and then you can bring other people on and service them. And I was doing that for a while. And then I said, you know what? this is not where I am passionate. This is not where I'm inspired. So that's part of you learning yourself and what really makes you, shine. And so I've now offloaded that, and I have the Inspirational Businesswoman show is on these other channels. I have someone else doing it for me. So you learn where to offload and you learn where to focus so that you can provide the very best of yourself.
It's a way to grow too. Knowing where to say no and knowing where to pivot slightly, and then knowing when you just gotta like, this isn't working. Let's try something else.
Yeah.
There's a big balance in there. What I was going to say about the content is that because of streaming, they're always looking for content on even like Netflix and Amazon and all of the places. They're not sharing with each other as much as they used to, because content is becoming more scarce.
Yeah.
Because people are just like, they're binging stuff.
Well, I don't think it's becoming scarce. I think that there's tons of content out there.
Oh, yeah.
But as far as being someone who produces content, I think that you have to be a little more discriminating about what you produce, because there is so much out there. It's almost overwhelming. So when, for instance, I'm looking to provide something for my audience, whether it's, one of my quick tips on visibility marketing, or it's the Inspirational Businesswoman show, I'm always looking for an angle that maybe hasn't been touched on much. And I think that that's really an important piece to provide. I was just talking to a gal today, actually before this, and we were talking about, she's going to be on my show, and she considers herself a professional dreamer. And I said, oh my gosh, I've never had anyone on my show like that. And isn't this an important concept, that we all give ourselves permission to dream and imagine what the possibilities are? And so often it's suppressed. Society puts us down for dreaming too big, right? So I look for
dreaming
opportunities, or dreaming at all, which is her point. So I look for opportunities to share content that is a little bit differentiated from what people do over and over again.
Yeah, I think that's really key, to just to look at it from just a slightly different angle and see how the light hits it.
Yeah, definitely. Like a good prism.
Yeah, like a good prism. So Virginia, this has been awesome. What's the one thing that you hope the audience takes away from our conversation today?
It's so basic. It is about giving yourself permission to be who you already are, and let the light shine on that. So I always say to people, I want you to shine online, because that's how you can get the word out in a bigger way than if you hold it back and step or in your shadow. So I just say, give yourself permission to step out of your shadow, be your authentic self, and shine online. When you do that, people will resonate with you because you truly were yourself. And the people who want to work with you will be attracted to you because you are being who you are. I know that's so basic, but that's why it's important, because it is so basic, just being yourself.
It can be scary too, but it's okay.
Yeah. You certainly don't need to be perfect. I learned that 10 years ago when I started broadcasting.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks again for joining me.
It's been great. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another empowering episode of the You World Order Showcase podcast. We hope you've enjoyed hearing from our incredible life, health, and transformational coaches who are making a profound impact on the world. Remember, change begins with you, and you have the power to transform your life and the lives of others. If you want to take that next step and unlock your true potential, visit thecoachesalchemist.com, where you can find the 3 ways we can help you for free to spin your talent into gold with clarity, a system, and a plan. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an inspiring episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more people with our positive message. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and upcoming guest announcements. You can find us on Facebook at The U World Order or simply visit thecoachesalchemist.com.